Okay, count them up. 40, 50, 60 million active users on Office 365. That is an opportunity. What if you could take your great idea and get it in front of all of those Office 365 apps? That's what we're going to be talking about in this episode of Dev Radio. Hi, and welcome to the next episode of Microsoft Dev Radio. I'm Jerry Nixon, and I'm here with Homitat. Who's Homitat? Well, I've got Raj Kanduru. He's the head of product strategy here with me. I've also got Mustafa, one of my favorite evangelists out there in Fairfax. We're here to talk about it. Let's start with you, Mustafa. Thanks for being on the show, buddy. What's going on in Virginia?
Hi, Jerry. Hi, everyone. My name is Mustafa Al-Zagbi. I'm a technical evangelist based here in DC metro area. So I'm working with customer partners to build very cutting-edge technology and solutions. And today we are working, we're going to talk about working with Homitat and the very intelligent solution that we build to expand their outreach to new customers.
Very nice. Thanks for being on the show, buddy. Hey, Raj, you're the head of product strategy for Homitat. Thank you for being on the show today. I'm excited to talk to you. Before we talk about your company, tell us a little bit about who you are.
Sure. Firstly, thanks for inviting me. And, again, it's been a great ride, and Mustafa has been a great support for us. So, again, a little bit about me. I'm an engineer by education, and then I'm a management consultant. That's what I do for a living. And over the last 4 or 5 years, I've been actually trying to look for a new home for myself. And then I see that there is so much information out there, right? People are inundated with information, but for someone even as tech savvy as me to synthesize that into a meaningful decision making was next to impossible. So I said, okay, if it's really that difficult for me who can synthesize data and who does it for a living, what's really it for a common man? Then really that's when I thought of this idea of Homitat. It's really Homitat is like habitat, right? Like just like animals need food, water, shelter before they pick their habitat. Homitat is also that. It's not just a home with a good, floor plan and beds and baths, but there's really a lot to it, like schools, the commute, the playgrounds, and all of that.
And the crime
really
rate and the weather and what's going on as far as economic development. There's a lot of information.
Right. So, so humans look at all of these things before they say, okay, this is really the location where I want my home to be. Yeah. And that's really how we came up with Homitat, similar to the habitat.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So basically, the next time I'm looking for a home, you aggregate all that information into something to make it sensible, save me tons of time, probably make a better decision.
Exactly. And all you have to do is just click one button and you'll get a beautiful score on a scale of 0 to 100.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay. Now, Homitat is located, you're also in Virginia. You're right there with Mustafa, right?
Yes, exactly. Fortunately or unfortunately, I'm in Fairfax, Virginia also. And so our headquarters is in Virginia. And again, I think right now the Homitat is only a mobile app, and we wanted it to be that way because we wanted the buyers to use it on the go. So again, you could download it right now. There is a beta version in both Android and iOS.
Talk about a location where a lot of activity in home sales happens, right? There's so much transition because you're so close to Washington, D.C. Everybody's always coming in and coming out whenever any kind of politics change and elections occur. It's perfect placement, actually, if you ask me. I used to live in Alexandria, Virginia. That's a beautiful part of the world. A lot of Southern charm there.
That is, but again, right, even in Alexandria, it kind of changes from King Street and, you walk 5 blocks, it's different, right?
That's exactly right. 5 blocks from King Street. That's where I used to live even.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's cool. Nice. All right, Mustafa, tell me just a little bit about where did we begin? What was going on?
So basically, I started, meeting Raj as he started to basically attend my startup office hours that we have at Microsoft Resident Office. And then he started talking about, Homitat and some of the challenges that they have. And once I heard, a couple of the challenges that they have, we started, to think about how can we help them to solve one of their problems that they have in the platform by expanding outreach of their product to Office 365 customers and specifically to the enterprise customers.
Okay.
And this is how we start thinking about the project.
So now walk me through why this is a problem. Why are corporate users difficult to reach?
So because most of our corporate, customers and users, they basically spend most of 80% of their time in Outlook. And they use the email as a communication and a conversation platform when dealing with people, partners, brokers, customers, and even their colleagues. So we started to think about how can we reach to where the people, they spend most of their time in Outlook. And that's why we basically proposed that.
Oh, I see. It's not so much as it's difficult to reach them as much as bringing it to be where they already are so that you can make the experience just a little bit more seamless and natural for them. And where are corporate users, of course, they've got Outlook open all day long.
Yes.
So how do we, this is an add-in to Outlook, or what was the direction you chose?
So the direction that we chose is basically we build an Outlook group connector where people can install it within their Outlook and they can get all the conversation around Homitat in their Outlook inbox. So we basically build an Outlook group connector.
Let me pause you here just to talk about what an Outlook group connector is. I would imagine of the developers listening to the show, 1 out of about 14,000 is going to know what we're talking about so far. They're like, okay, Outlook groups, that must be a distribution list. No, that's not what it is. Outlook group connector, oh, that must be a connected distribution list. That's not what it is either. When you're trying to explain what a Outlook group connector and what Outlook groups are to people, how do you go about it? What do you say?
Okay, so the Outlook, let's start with what's an Outlook group. An Outlook group, basically, it's not a distribution list. It's a conversation platform that Microsoft offers as part of Office 365.
Yeah.
So where you can add people within your corporate, or you can even add external customers or external users. And people can have the same chatting experience and mentioning people back and forth within Outlook. That's what is Outlook group definition.
Now, just a second, because a lot of people are like, wow, I wonder how I install that. If you have Office 2016 and it's Outlook 360, I'm sorry, and it's Office 365, you open up Outlook, there's groups already there. Most people just don't realize that little node is in the tree, but there it is, ready to go. It's probably empty, but you can use it from there. Okay, keep going. So what's the connector as far as the Outlook group?
So, and the connector, the concept behind the connector is Microsoft opened the platform for vendors and partners and customers to build their own connectors. The connector is your identity for a group where people can install multiple connectors on a certain group. So if you have a hiking interest, so within my DC colleagues, I can install a hiking activities add a connector. I can add a foodie connector or any information that I'm interested in within my group or very special interest group. We can install multiple connectors within the same group.
And you can expand that group, and it looks like you might be going through a mailbox of messages. But in all reality, it doesn't have anything to do with Exchange Server. This is just an entry point for Exchange Server or for custom data, which I'm assuming how you brought it into for Homitat.
Yes. So the concept was how to send the customized messages to our customers through the connector. Yeah. So the connector will have a backend to send important information, product updates, new listing, information about what the areas that you are interested in, and we can fully customize the messaging to our customers through the Outlook group connectors.
Okay, so there's this thing called groups. There's this thing called connectors that allows you to connect and use a group. Raj, I'm a customer of yours. I work for a company. What was the user experience you hoped that they would have?
So really, firstly, right, I think our biggest challenge has been, the user acquisition. Mm-hmm. So wherever we go to people and talk to people, they say, oh, we love the idea, right? We love the idea. It's simple. But then how do we go and plug ourselves in, right? Especially when you're looking at, people with Zillow as this information. And ours is an app, which is an interesting play that we don't have a listing. It's an app that it stands by itself and you can score it. So at that time, we said, when Mustafa gave me this idea to say that, okay, let me give you access, right, to really the 60 million Outlook users, I said, okay, this is really a perfect thing, right? Then the way it works is first time when like I'm a office user, I have a group, I create one, and I say, okay, hey, I would like to subscribe to the channel called Homitat.
Yeah.
Then it's in my database, right? And every time there is a new update and said, hey, this is really the new features that we're doing. Here is an improvement to our algorithm that is more accurate than what you are, right? Then I really post it out. So for me, this entire exchange is really seamless and it's easy. It's like a blog post that I'm putting it on a website and anticipating someone's looking at it. But this one, I know that someone's going to read it because they've already subscribed to my channel and it's really going and sitting in their mailbox.
Very nice.
So really, that's really how we looked at it. And, it was, again, when Mustafa said, hey, Raj, it's no cost to you. It's going to be simple. I was like, yeah, another Microsoft technique. Yeah. But this time, though, honestly, simple. It was really simple. It was really simple, though.
It because, really
again,
was.
I think that, because the entire piece of code was already written, right? We had to just, configure it to our database and that. And then really with the Azure, online web services, it was literally 2 or 3 clicks. And you're done.
Yeah. Okay.
It was very simple.
That's beautiful. Good job, Mustafa. You got him fooled, right? That's terrific.
Yeah, there is one thing I would like to add to Raj. Basically, the idea behind the Outlook group, it's an awesome opportunity for a lot of vendors to get a product exposure. The use case is simple. If one person added you to a group and this group has 100 members, you have been exposed to 100 members.
Oh, sure.
That's why the Outlook Group Connector is an amazing opportunity for product-based companies or any person who builds a product. If you want to reach out, we have more than 60 million monthly active users that are using Office 365. So if you can get in touch and reach out to these people on their Outlook where they spend most of their time, you basically achieve a huge exposure for your product.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. So you're looking at it, Raj, as not just a nice UI to be able to engage users in a kind of intuitive way, but also as almost a way of advertising, right? Because now all of a sudden,
that's exactly it.
You're in a community you weren't in before, and you're not lost in the Google Play Store or whatever, among a trillion of them. And
Absolutely.
More than likely, it's the type of audience that are likely going to be purchasing a home. I mean, more than likely there.
And the reason for that, right? Like if I'm a user and I'm the one that is creating a group called, looking for homes in Northern Virginia, as an example.
Yeah.
And if people are joining that group, by 90% of the chance, that they are a very potential user.
Yeah.
Right?
Why else? Exactly.
Exactly, right? I'm not going to say that they are tire kickers. They are something may not be a potential user, but they are part of the group. So they have already made a choice to be part of the group, right? So that's really, that's exactly what, we looked at it and said, I think this is really, worth our time and effort to go with that.
Brilliant. That's brilliant. Now, you brought up Zillow, and I'm picturing what Homitat does and what Zillow, are you basically Zillow version 2? Are you the same as Zillow?
Actually, we are everything but not Zillow. I'll tell you why. So Zillow as home listings, right? I mean, Zillow or any of the MLS listings, you go there, you find pretty pictures of the home and then the listings, who is the buyer, who is the selling agent and all, right? And then what you really have is a description of the schools, the crime rate, and all of them, right? Yeah. So what we are is really a complement to all of these listing agents. These listing agents are really focusing on the home. And really, they give you some anecdotes of the schools or the area, but not much. Yeah. But what we give them is a mojo on the location. Say I look at a home and say, okay, this is a perfect price, and I love the floor plans and all, but is it really something that fits my lifestyle? Right? For you to answer that, say, okay, I have little kids, they have to go to elementary school, I don't have a car, so I have to take public transportation. If folks are thinking through all this, they have to go to 16 different sites to say, okay, let me go to, Washington Metro thing, or let me go to schools.org, right? Yeah. But imagine in every listings, right, if there was a button, that's a very simple thing to say, click on it and says, I give you a score and say, hey, this home is 78% to your lifestyle. But the key is your lifestyle. The reason being, like if you look at something like a walk score or Revaluate or Home Facts, they are the facts that are going to be the same for Jerry, Chris, Roger, Mustafa.
Yeah,
but our score is different. Like for instance, if I have a young kid, right? So for me, an elementary school rating is very important. For someone whose kids are already an empty nest, whose kids are already, gone off, they don't care. So for them, you're
Yeah.
elementary school, right? So for me, the same exact home, my score versus their score is different.
So there must be part of Homitat is being able to put in my profile. You guys are kind of
Absolutely right.
You're kind of like Match.com, but for
You're
neighborhoods
right.
and people.
homes.
Thank you. So I think if you see the tagline, right, it's kind of that we match homes to people, right?
To find the home you love.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
can keep
Yeah,
going
right.
with it, right? That's
Right,
terrific.
but I think like that's the key, right? Is that if I say, oh, the walk score is 25, right?
Right.
Some people, maybe they may say, oh, mile is really not a big deal for me to get groceries. And if you ask me in the cold weather, I don't want to walk 10 feet. Right?
Yeah.
So it all depends on what it is. So, and really that is the one that differentiates us. So one, we're different from Zillow, Trulia, or any of the zillion sites is we're not a listing agent. And we are different from other metrics that you get from home faxes. We make it personalized.
Okay.
We don't want to say, okay, I'll give you one score and say it's good for all.
Yeah, no, I can see why it wouldn't be. I can absolutely see why. And the other thing is you're researching crime and, the robbery rate is 17 out of 10,000. I don't know if that's good or bad, to be honest. I'm like, well, it seems high, but maybe it's low. I'll compare it to Detroit. As long as it's better than Detroit, I guess I'm all right. I don't know what to do.
Right.
So
And
bit
again,
behind
I
it
hate
that
to say,
predict
yeah,
it.
you're absolutely right. I think there is maybe it's politically incorrect, but it also depends on your lifestyle and age, right? When I was like 22, I wanted to be in downtown, knowing that it may not be the safest place, right? I really, I don't care, right?
Yeah.
There are bars and clubs and all of that, right? So it all depends on, what my priorities are. If you say that, oh, it's dangerous, it's like, okay, do I care?
Right. Because every
kind of
person's
thing,
going to have a different threshold and different concerns.
Exactly.
Sure. Now you're raising little kids. You do really care, right?
Oh,
Cool.
absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Makes plenty of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to the connector. Terrific. Now I have this experience where I can engage Homitat through Office 365 or through Outlook specifically in the groups. Mustafa, part of the architecture included Azure App Services. What's that piece of the architecture?
This piece is basically to send a fully customized messages to your customers.
Okay.
So basically not just customization, but also scheduling. So Azure App Services, you will be able to upload and submit and publish your code as an Azure Web Jobs, where you can schedule the when and why would you send a certain product update to a certain customer. So we already have all the customers who have been registered on the group. So we have all the groups names, right? Yeah. But I want to say if there is a new update for, let's say, for the crime rate in the DC metro area, so all the subscribed customers should be, notified with this. So the web job will say, I will send now, let's say 7 a.m. every day on Eastern time to all our customers. This is the ranking updates in the DC metro area or for a certain listing. So this is just one use case, which is the product update, but it could be anything. So the Azure App Service has a lot of features, but one of them that we used, Azure Web Jobs, and the scheduling within Web Jobs. So you'll be able to schedule ad hoc or recurring events within your back-end messages to the groups that have been subscribed to your connector.
Okay, so he's already got the infrastructure for the data, right? So somewhere is a database with all of this good information and the ability to crank out stuff. Adding this app service just allows you to make that bigger without having to add anything to it, right? So you could just tap into it, still control all the groups over here without having to make any changes to his infrastructure other than just reading the data, and still be able to be live inside those groups, still be able to engage users with the data they need and keep it up to date. Is that the gist of it? Yeah. That makes plenty of sense.
Yeah, we already have a very detailed technical discussion with the Homitat team to understand their existing implementation.
Yeah.
And basically, we provided the implementation, the full implementation, where they just need to take the code that we developed and integrate it directly to their backend.
Exactly.
Wow. Now, Mustafa, Raj said just a clickety-click, and it was done. Seriously?
Yes, because the idea of developing a connector and deploying it to make it basically take a script and put in your website, you can create a connector in literally a few minutes.
Okay.
And the idea of the integration, we already provided the code for this, and even the code is already shared in GitHub for other partners so they can reuse these, implementation in their systems.
We'll
But
make sure and
building
put the link to
connector
that
is so
GitHub
simple.
repo.
Yeah, and we already built a sandbox and developer sandbox to make it easier for our vendors and ISVs to build the connector in a matter of literally 2-3 minutes.
Okay, that's cool. Wow, it's amazing how fast something like that can be. Raj, how long until you feel like your connector/channel is going to be ready for prime time?
So really our prime time is as soon as we have, folks subscribing to our channel.
Okay.
Really, I think we are all set, right? So we already have a few templates that, we shared with Mustafa, and we got some feedback to say, hey, Mustafa, this is the kind of stuff, this is kind of thing, right? And we got some good guidance to say, how can it be like an eye candy, right? So that if they get like 100 messages, right? And really to just add on what Mustafa said, right, is that the web job was really, I would say, the deal for us. We already have an infrastructure. We didn't really want this connector to be tightly coupled with our core functionality, right? Because if you have to restart this one, I don't want my mobile app to get impacted.
Right.
So when this web job was there, all it's doing is it's really running on its own, right? On its own service. All it does is it takes data from a table in my database, and that's completely for its own. Yeah. So we said, okay, it's completely independent, where I can manage it. I mean, again, I can go on to Azure.com, and it's all like, stop, start, and, really
kind of pay as you go.
Exactly. So I think, that's really the one. And at this time, I think we already are thinking through what are the ones we have, like, 3 or 4, if you may say, blocks with, some of the links, right? Because we are in user acquisition, I think one of the things that we are doing is the links that we send out, like we call them the action links, or really to download the app, right? Yeah. But once we are one of those with million downloads, right? Then naturally, right? Our thing would be, hey, you're not finding a home that meets your location preferences in Fairfax, but look at something that's in Vienna. It's slightly more pricey, but you have it, right? So we're gonna get into some of the machine learning concepts we're thinking through, but really, it's just a start of how we connect with our greater community of users.
Huh. Wow. Well, it's amazing how much value you can get from such little effort like that, and how little impact you can have against your existing infrastructure as well, and still be able to scale out to whatever you need to just by a flick of a switch inside Azure. It's pretty sweet. Mustafa, I guess, good job, man. That's pretty cool.
Oh, thank you, Jerry.
Let's see. We're going to have the link to the GitHub repo, and the GitHub repo will include a walkthrough and documentation of the whole thing, right, where we can kind of read through the process and the thinking, the architecture behind it. So if there's anybody watching or listening and they're thinking, this sounds really interesting, I wonder what it's really like, they'll be able to see all the details through the entire project that you went through. That's pretty cool. Were you the only developer, Mustafa?
Yeah. And by the way, I want to also add that we, within the link that has the whole test use case with all the technical details, we have done a different implementation using different technologies for the same solution implementation. So we did web jobs, we did cloud services, we did for ASP.NET web applications. So we have like 3 or 4 implementation for the same solution. So if you are a big fan of the microservices, you still can grab the cloud services implementation. If you want to integrate it with ASP.NET Core web app, you will be able to do that. If you want to go with a standard web API, you will be able to do that. So we have a multiple implementation for the same solution, whatever fits your back-end infrastructure.
Yeah. Fascinating. Why build one project when you could build 3, Mustafa? Great job.
No problem.
Must be paid by the hour. All right. I assume, Raj, it's Homitat, Homitat.com?
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
That is it. By the way, Jerry, that was a brilliant guess.
What's that?
That was a brilliant guess of Homitat.com.
Well, I figured it's the smartest URL, so I figured a guy like probably going to get the smartest URL, so it's brilliant. Homitat. All right, cool. And do you service every area, or where is it only in Virginia? Is it the whole United States?
this is anything in continental United States, but really, there are some APIs that we use. I can't really name them, but some of the APIs, they're not robust enough that they cover all of these areas. But in that case, right, like for instance, I'm picking an example. Like if Crime API was really not, available in all the cities, and I'm going to pick a place like Reno, Nevada. So in that example, then, even if the user selects something of preference on crime, we simply say, okay, this is not available here, right?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see.
So I think it's pretty scalable in the sense that it automatically knows, which kind of information is available at what places. And for most part, right, we really have covered continental United States.
Very nice.
And by the way, I do have some people from India asking me if I can expand it for the country.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, a lot of opportunity there too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All that matters to me is high-speed internet. Oh, I live up in the mountains, and we have internet, but we don't get to call it high-speed yet, so it's just...
call it high-speed. Okay.
Yeah. All right, very cool. What's next, though? You say you're thinking about India, and then are there more variables that you see coming in that maybe users are going to be interested to have a better fit for their profile?
So there are multiple, right? So one is in terms of, scaling horizontal to different countries, right? Though people have expressed interest, that's really not we're, going to focus on.
Yeah.
What we really are focusing on right now is we have very good feedback from our, beta users and the initial set of users. They're saying that, okay, I see these 16, but there are, 4 others that I would like to see as part of this, right? And we are working with realtors and other experts in the real estate industry. So we are adding more dimensions to make it even more crisper, right? That's part one. And the second part is we are also trying to see how we can integrate this with any of the listing agents. So if you were to see listings on any of the sites, right, any of the popular sites, just imagine that, you as Jerry go in just one time, you say, hey, here are my preferences. Every time you get a listing, you see a Homitat score.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
So
I could see a realtor going in and answering these questions on behalf of a homeowner or a prospective homeowner, and giving them the printout and saying, "Just check it out. You're a one for one on this. This is going to be a slam dunk."
Absolutely, and so our vision, our vision, though it's a bit, I would say, ambitious, right? So it's a bit ambitious is that on every home listings page, right?
Yeah.
People eventually say, what was your home in score?
Yeah, that'd be terrific.
Exactly.
And you know what? The opposite is true too. I mean, if a realtor goes in, puts in your profile information and says, you're not going to be happy here. I mean, that's true value add. Not every realtor is like a lawyer, right? They're not just out for your cash. Right. Little broad brush there. Sorry.
I know.
I meant attorney when I said that. I didn't mean lawyer.
Right.
And anyway.
Exactly, right? Again, I think it's like a win-win situation, or sometimes what happens is, you can only trust the data that's available out there so much, right? If the realtor can say, okay, well, there is this data, however, there is XYZ. But I'll tell you one thing, though. The biggest thing is the realtors, by law of their licensure, they cannot give more information to the home buyer, in persuading them to buy or not buy a home.
Yeah.
That's the key. So even if the realtor wants to give the information, legally they cannot.
All they can give you is homitat.com.
Exactly.
Okay, this makes plenty of sense. Makes plenty of sense. Wow, okay. This is quite a service to the industry. I can see the value. I'd love to see a heat map of the United States to see where I would be happiest living. That'd be fascinating, actually.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be
your personal preferences, Jerry.
Yeah, it'd probably be right next door to Mustafa. I can tell you.
It could really be 5 blocks from King Street.
It could be, yeah. There's a little regret in my heart from leaving there. I'll tell you the truth. All right, I'm pretty excited. I'm super excited, actually, that the solution was so simple and gave so much opportunity and potential behind it as well. Pretty cool. I like Homitat. I like Outlook groups. Mustafa, great job showing how this could be so simple and so easy. Both of you guys, thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thanks for inviting.
Thanks. We'll see you again.